Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Spark of War Book 2, a LitRPG progression fantasy series by Carter J. Thompson. Narrated by Raquel Beattie. Chapter 1. Elle sat on the edge of the building, her feet kicking back and forth gently over the side as she stared intently at her hands. At what she held in her hands. Part of her couldn't believe it was real, that she had it right there. But there was no denying the texture of it between her fingers, at the sheer weight of it. It was everything. Life itself. It was... "That the new fiery pork bomb Mark II I've been hearing so much about?" Nexon asked, the sound of his feet landing on the roof behind her. "Don't expect me to share," Elle said to her brother, without taking her eyes off the sandwich. The original fiery pork bomb, Mark I, as they were calling it now, was quite possibly her favorite thing in the world. This new one, though, if what they said was true, could potentially blow her socks off. Which is why my feet are dangling off the edge of a secluded roof. Not at all because I didn't want to be interrupted. "You? Share food? Anella, we've been siblings for how long now? Our whole lives. I know better than to ask you to share." Nexon walked over and gave her shoulder a gentle nudge as he spoke, and she could hear the playfulness in his voice. She still wasn't going to look away from the sandwich. The way the shredded pork practically oozed the fiery sauce, the greens and oranges of the peppers standing out, and the crisp yet soft texture of the bread. And a fried egg on top of all that? Genius! Pure maniacal genius. No, she couldn't wait any more. Without responding to her brother, Elle took her first bite of the sandwich, and true to the name, fiery flavor exploded her in her mouth. And it was everything. She practically purred as she savored every slow chew before finally swallowing down. So good. How have I lived without this? She asked nobody in particular when her mouth was finally empty. Nexon sat down beside her on the edge of the building, something wrapped in wax paper in his hand, extended towards her. "Since you're actually going to have to live without them for a while, I brought you a second." "That's why you're my best brother." She gestured with her eyes for him to put the sandwich between them. She'd get to that soon enough. "Pretty sure I'm your only brother," Nexon pointed out. The other kids from the orphanage were constantly bringing me things. "'Cause they were afraid of you." "They were not." "Totally were. You know that's why they had the party when we left." "I thought they were happy for us." "Happy to see us go," Nexon joked. "Are you blaming me for us never getting adopted?" Elle asked, eyeing Nexon sideways with a raised eyebrow. "Nah, we got into the academy young this way. It was good for us." Elle nodded while she took another bite of the sandwich. "It's burning good," and remembered what she could from the orphanage. A lot of it was a blur. They'd taken her in when she was a baby, after all, but the memories weren't bad ones. Nexon had always been with her, and she'd made some good friends, except she hadn't seen any of them since then. Burn it, she couldn't even remember their faces. And the more she tried to, the hazier everything got. Stop trying to force it, Elle. Just go to the orphanage later and ask about the other kids who were there at the same time. Then you can see their faces instead of trying to remember them. I wonder what they're up to. Firestorm like us? I hope none of them ended up becoming cardinals. The memory of the church believers spontaneously combusting wasn't a memory that was fuzzy at all. Also, not a terrible memory, considering what those folks had been trying to do. Feeding Academy cadets and their sparks, the source of their magic, to a giant golem to win a decades-long war in the name of a god who wanted to burn the world to ashes didn't really put them high on her list of good people. And the fact she'd gone along with it her whole life until recently didn't make it any better. So she shrugged to herself and took another bite. But a new thought occurred to her. "Hey, Nex?" "Yes, El?" "Why didn't any of Mom or Dad's friends take us in? Or do we have any aunts or uncles?" Nexon looked at her for a moment before answering. "Huh. I guess we've never talked about it, have we?" Elle shook her head. They hadn't. Not even once. "Why haven't we?" Nexon blew out a breath. "My guess, by the time you were old enough to think about it, the Academy scooped us up." He tapped the side of his head. "At that point, Pyre's brainwashing to keep us focused on the war probably took over." Elle scowled and almost put her sandwich down at the thought of the insidious influence the church had held over the nation. At how they'd manipulated the people's thoughts and emotions through their sparks to keep them warring and conquering, to keep them gathering the embers. Her eyes went to the central building in the city. The great flames, blue now, still roaring across an entire large city block. Amidst the other buildings stylized in reds and oranges, shaped like flames themselves, the seat of the previous church's power was a stark contrast. Since the two gods had fought over the city and the pyre had gone back to sleep, saving the world in the process, the last 3 months had been about rebuilding. Rebuilding the city damaged in the battle, rebuilding the governance and the people's trust in it, and closest to Elle, rebuilding the firestorm and their role in the new world. "Stupid Cardinal Sin. I'm glad I stabbed him," Elle grumbled, taking another bite. "So? Aunts? Uncles? A favorite grandfather I don't know about?" Nexon chuckled. "None that I know of. I asked the orphanage folks about it around when I was—" He trailed off, as if trying to pick the memory out of his head, but then his face scrunched up. I must have been 7 or 8, I guess." A shake of his head. "Doesn't matter. They said there wasn't anybody. Our grandparents were Firestorm as well. They died in battle, like our parents did. No other children." "I hope that's not hereditary," Elle said, side-eyeing Nexon, and they both kind of chuckled. "And what, our parents were hermits with no friends who liked us enough to take us in?" "Also Firestorm," Nexon said. "Same danger. Good chance we would have ended up at the orphanage anyway." "I guess. Have you been back since we went to the Academy?" Nexon looked at her, face scrunched up again. "No, I haven't." "Do you remember where it is? I think I might go visit after we get back," Elle said. "Kind of. We can go find it together." "More likely get lost together," Elle said. "Probably that one," Nexon laughed. "On the topic of after we get back from our next trip," he said, voice turning more serious. "Are you ready for this? It'll be our longest one yet, and the first we've used the in-between to get where we're going." Elle's eyes went to the roaring blue flames again. "I am. We've been testing the limits of who and what I can take with me into the in-between. 5 other people, 2 embers at the maximum. I'm still not so great at figuring out where the exits are from the in-between, but that's why Sol is one of the ones coming with us. And why I'm going to babysit him, Nexon grumbled. Here I thought it was just because you wanted to spend time with your adorable little sister. Nexon rolled his eyes. Brass still don't trust him. Burying half our troops in ice and leading an army of blue newts made them nervous. They aren't sure he won't do it again. I won't, a new voice said, before Sol sat down on the edge of the roof on Elle's other side. Ah, I see you already have one of the new sandwiches. Sorry, make that 2. I guess you don't want... He trailed off, holding out a 3rd wax paper-wrapped bundle. Leave it with me. I'll take good care of it, Elle promised, and Sol put the sandwich down between them. And for the record, we know you won't try anything. You've been doing nothing for the last 3 months but making sure we get the embers back safe where they belong. Loss of power is scary, Sol said. Some of your generals worry returning the embers, and in turn, weakening your sparks, is just a ploy so I can gain the upper hand. Take it from somebody who actually fought you. You don't need to gain an upper hand. You already have it, Nexon said. My strength isn't what it was. With the pyre slumbering again, my goddess has retracted her touch on this world. A rematch between us would be a very different thing, Sol said, but somehow he was smiling. Gone were the man's flat eyes and expressionless face he'd come with. Over the last 3 months, it had been like a summer thaw inside Sol's emotions. Is this who he was before? How much weaker are you? Elle asked. Could I? Not a chance, Sol interrupted quickly. But what if I... Nope. My new flames wouldn't be enough. Bah, Elle grumbled, taking another bite of her sandwich. But Nexon might make a fight of it, Sol said. But he's not... He is. Elle glared at the man beside her. He wasn't wearing his heavy plate armor or carrying that stupidly big sword anymore. In fact, he was dressed in the latest style and looked pretty burning good in it, actually. But he didn't need to be like that. Nexon wasn't... who am I kidding? Yes, he is. Bah, she repeated. Nexon, are you going to let him bully your little sister like this? Pretty sure you started it, Nexon said. Dunno how I feel about letting you 2 go off together now. You're going to come back all chummy and gang up on me, Elle said. You can only take 5 people with you, Sol said. With how your generals feel, it makes sense to send Nexon with me. Anybody else, and there'd be no slots left for people to support you. Speaking of, did you decide on who you're bringing with you? Nexon asked. Not a hard decision, really. Nadina, Dane, and Lays, Elle said. Falid and Teth are okay with that? Falid is still technically your wing leader, even with your new rank, and I didn't think Teth would want to be apart from his twin sister, Nexon said. Nadina and Teth have been practically inseparable since everybody got de-iced. It'll be good for them to have some time apart. She's starting to rhyme like he does. Yep, definitely time to separate them, Nexon groaned. Falid has moved a bit away from Wing Command also. They've got him working with a new support division of the Firestorm. He's always had a good head for details, and if we're not all just going to war all the time, there's more we can offer to the country, Elle explained. Like mailmen and milk delivery? Sol asked. Probably. Not exactly either of those things, Elle said. but spotted the cheeky grin on the man's face. "Still not used to you telling jokes." Sol nodded. "Fair. Things are going to change, though. This continent has practically sat empty for decades since the embers were brought here. It's a good chance to spread out again, trade with other nations, peacefully." "Which is why Khalid is the right man for the job," El said. "While we return the furthest embers. Besides Gould, all the other ones on the continent have gone back. We're going to the other side of the world through the in-between. It's kind of exciting in a way." "Other than the lack of fiery pork bombs," Nexon pointed out. Elle gathered her sandwiches protectively. "I've still got time. We don't leave until tomorrow." Chapter 2. Elle stood with her 3 wingmates and her brother, while Sol strode into the billowing blue flames. If they bothered him, he didn't show it, and soon all they could make out was a wavy silhouette within the fire. "And you're sure it's not all snowy and cold still where we're going, right?" Nadina asked, for the 3rd time. In 10 minutes. "I'm not sure, okay?" Elle said again. "I haven't been there either. Sol promised the storm is gone, though, and all the snow has melted. Months ago, according to him." "What if he's wrong?" Nadina asked. "Then it's a good thing we still have our sparks and don't have to worry about being cold," Elle said flatly. "Actually, does that still apply to you?" Lays asked beside her. "Does your new blue spark still keep you warm?" Elle opened her mouth to answer, then just sort of paused. "Sol, are you sure the storm is gone?" she asked the man as he came back out of the fire, with a burning stick in each hand. For fragments of a god, the embers were less than impressive close up. "It vanished months ago," Sol said. "The snow would have melted within a week at most." "How long was the place we're going to frozen?" Lays asked. Before responding, Sol handed one of the embers over to Dane. "Take good care of it. It sleeps, so it shouldn't be a problem. Still, if you hear voices—" Nadina and Lays shared a worried look. "If he hears voices?" Nadina finally asked. "It's probably one of you talking to him through your communication magic," Sol said with a wink. "The embers won't wake up for at least a century. Don't worry about them. And once you put them back in their proper resting places, they'll be bound there for at least twice that." "Was that a joke? Did he just try to tell us a joke?" Lays quietly asked. Elle nodded at her best friend, then changed it to a shake of her head. "His sense of humor needs some work." "Back to your question," Sol said, ignoring Elle and Lays. "The storm and I passed through the area we're heading to about 100 years ago. But it wasn't the same as what happened here." 100 years ago? Just how old are you? Lays asked. Not the important part of what he said, Elle pointed out. Why wasn't it the same? The sparks in most areas other than Pykryn weren't strong enough to be a major threat. As such, the people, the countries, weren't frozen completely. The snow weakened their magic and made it difficult for them to assist the Pyre if called. But I didn't go to war with them. You just buried them in snow for more than a century? Dane asked evenly. Sol looked at the big man. In retrospect, it may have been more civil to have frozen them. Not to try to blame you or anything, Sol, but how do we know anybody survived a winter like that? Elle asked. Their sparks weren't so weak the storm would have killed them. Just made things difficult. And you did this all over the world? Dane said. I may not be the most popular person in a lot of places, Sol admitted. Let's not share who Sol is or how he's connected to the storm, Elle said, pinching the bridge of her nose just thinking about the hassle it could be. Wait, it's not my problem. It's yours. She spun and pointed at her brother. I think it's a little unfair labeling me as a problem, Sol muttered behind her. Don't worry. The plan is to get in and out as quickly as possible, Nexon assured her. The less people see us, or our wings, the better it is. Remember, Sol may not be the only one who isn't popular. We did take the Embers by force in the first place. I doubt local history has painted us very kindly. I don't know how anybody could paint you any other way, Lays said, while batting her eyelashes at Nexon. Nadina, Elle said, purposely ignoring Lays's fawning. Any intel you have on where we're going? Nothing more recent than almost 2 centuries ago, Nadina said. I read through the briefings my parents had access to when Sol gave us an idea where we're going, but other than general geography, I doubt it's relevant. Both locations are coastal, with our stop being made up primarily of a series of hundreds of small, interconnected islands. Our records name the nation as the Isles of Pili. By small? Lays asked. Anywhere from a few hundred feet to a couple miles. I think the biggest is around 5 miles long. 200 years ago, the people mainly gathered in walled towns on the larger islands, with the biggest being where the Ember rested, Nadina explained. Why were the towns walled? Dane asked, while he held the Ember nonchalantly in one hand. There was some nasty wildlife. Some kind of big bears with scales as strong as metal, I think. Scaled bears? Elle asked. How did you know the name? Did you read the same briefing? No, you just said. Never mind. Can they fly? Lays asked. The bears? Nadina asked, brows furrowing. No, neither could the people. Any idea how their sparks manifested? Elle asked. Similar to the Gouldish, actually. Instead of remotely powering golems, though, they powered tools and weapons of some kind. Not a lot more information than that. It was a long time ago, after all, Nadina said. Still good to know. What about where Nexon is going? Nadina grimaced and looked to her left. What's wrong? Lays asked. Nexon and Sol are going to what was the country of Vestus. They were mainly academics and scholars in the fields of geology and geography. They were also apparently quite famous for art, poetry, and literature. No really dangerous wildlife in their country, so they lived pretty peacefully. Didn't even have an army when Pykryn showed up. Nadina trailed off. Was it bad? Elle asked quietly. Nadina nodded. The reports. What our people did. Not pretty. Nexon, if you can avoid showing them your wings, it might be for the best, if anybody remembers. He'll be less popular than me? Sol asked. Honestly, 50-50, Nadina said. You did bury them in an endless snowstorm for more than 100 years. Our mission is to return the Embers, Nexon reminded them. Diplomacy will be important, but that's not what we're there for at this point. Leave it to the official envoys that'll be sent out later. For now, get in and out safely. Captain Visage is correct, a new voice added, and Elle turned to salute General Cannon. The man still had his left arm tightly bandaged and bound against his chest. Rumor had it the doctors told him it would never heal. but he'd taken on a lot more responsibility in the aftermath of everything. Beside him, so bland she almost faded into the background, and Elle had to do a double take. General Voulon looked over the group. Elle gave the woman a salute as well. "Stand down," Voulon said, as Follett and a few others joined them in the Pyre's courtyard section of the church compound. With the church itself in shambles, the logistics department Follett became part of had taken over the space. By the looks of things, General Voulon was his new boss. Good choice. Looking at Voulon, the woman did not stand out. But it was her mind that had catapulted her through the ranks. She was a genius when it came to managing troops and their resources. She'd be brilliant in the new logistics department and a great mentor for Follett. Elle gave Follett a small nod, while the two generals gave her group a quick inspection, and her previous sergeant returned the gesture. That done, her attention went back to the two commanding officers.
"While we hope you don't create an international incident as you take the embers back," General Cannon continued, "we also don't expect you to shore up 2 centuries of hard feelings. Get in, return the ember, then head home. There are plenty more embers to return before somebody changes their mind about doing it."
"Cannon," Voulon said evenly.
"They deserve to know,"
Cannon said to the other general.
"They're the ones risking themselves heading into unknown territory with less than half a wing. I'd still prefer to send Essis and a few of her boomers," the man continued, referencing his elite wing of Firestorm. "But—" he focused on Elle.
"Sorry, sir," Elle said. "For some reason it's easier to bring people I know with me into the in-between. If I took Captain Essis or any of her people, I'd probably only be able to bring one, and even that would be difficult."
The in-between, somewhat true to its name, operates on the basis of connections and bonds, Sol said. It's easier to go between places that have a history, which the two countries do because of the war. Likewise, only people Elle knows well will be able to travel with her.
"Does she really know you well enough to bring you along?" Voulon asked, her tone as flat as ever.
Besides our common experiences with each other, Elle and I share a slightly different connection. We've both been touched by my God."
"We've tested," Elle added. "Sol can come along just fine. Besides, we need him to guide us through the in-between."
"I thought you just said it could only bridge places with a connection. Would it not just be a tunnel?" Voulon asked. "More like a series of tunnels with multiple forks," Sol said. "The in-between looks like a vast forest, but it's actually a collection of paths you can't stray from unless you take a predetermined turn."
"Could we use it for trade in the future? To send messages and supplies?"
"Possibly," Sol said slowly. "But I honestly don't know how or why Elle is able to open the doorways to the in-between. I needed the storm and an amulet gifted to me by my God to pass through." "A question for later," Cannon interrupted. "As I was saying, there are individuals who are beginning to question giving up the embers. Most people with half a brain recognize the threat of leaving them together. As if anybody could have missed the monsters flying above our city. But I don't want to give them a chance to build up steam. The sooner we split the embers again, the better." "It will take generations for your sparks to noticeably weaken," Sol added. "And even then it's impossible to tell how much that will happen. There may not even be a difference. You'll have to pardon me if the same people pushing for keeping the embers don't trust your assurances on this," Cannon told Sol.
They've also suggested you planned the whole thing to destabilize our power, etc., etc. He already had the—
Sample complete. Ready to continue?